Okay, grade 9. So today we're going to have a look at probability, and this exercise contains everything that you need to know regarding probability for grade 9. The first question that we're going to have a look at is the numbers from 1 to 10 are put in a hat and one number is drawn. Write down the sample space. So if you look at the numbers that are put into the hat, it's listed here on the side in this little picture. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So those numbers are actually your sample space. When you write it down, you're going to write it as follows. So this S is equal to, S represents the sample space. It's equal to the numbers listed 1 to 10. Okay, that's how you write it. Out of that, we now ask you questions. So the first question that you can expect is the probability of drawing a 5. So out of the numbers that you are looking at, the probability of drawing a 5, you'll see there's only one 5. So there's one number out of the total numbers of 10. So you'll write your answer as the probability of drawing a 5 is 1 out of 10. The probability of drawing a 13, now you'll notice there's no 13 in the listed numbers or in your sample space, and you can't draw 13 out of the bag if there's no 13 inside the bag. So the probability of drawing a 13 is then 0 out of 10, and you always simplify your fractions, so the probability of drawing a 13 is 0. For question D, the probability of drawing an odd number. Now if you look at the sample space, the odd numbers you're looking at is 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9. So that's 5 numbers out of the 10 that are odd. So the probability of drawing an odd number is 5 out of 10, which is simplified to a half. Now the probability of drawing a number that is a multiple of 5 or an odd number. Now if a number is a multiple of 5 out of your sample space, we're looking at 5 and 10. And the odd numbers are then 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9. So you'll notice that the probability of drawing a number that's a multiple of 5 or odd number is in fact 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 numbers. So you have 6 out of 10, which is then 3 out of 5. Then the probability of drawing anything except a 5 would then be 9 out of 10, because you're not allowed to draw the 5, so you're left with the rest of the numbers. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So you're just not allowed to draw the 5. So 9 out of 10. Now the second question that we're going to have a look at is if you toss a coin and roll a dice. Now you need to know that if you toss a coin has 2 sides to it, so you're looking at a head and a tail. And a dice, you have 6 sides, so you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And what they ask of you here is to represent the possible answers that you can get for rolling a dice and tossing a coin at the same time. What are your possible answers that you can get? And they want you to represent that in a two-way table. Now if you look at a two-way table, it's actually quite cool. So a two-way table, on this side you're looking at the dice, so you have the numbers listed from 1 to 6, and here on the side in the column you have heads and tails. So your first option that you can get is you can get a head and a 1. So on the coin you can get a head, and on the dice you can get a 1. Second one is a head and a 2, a head and a 3, and all the way to a head and a 6. The same then for the tails. You can get a tail and a 1, a tail and a 2, all the way to a tail and a 6. Now they'll ask you questions out of that to see if you understand the two-way table. So the first question, write down the number of possible outcomes. So out of this, you have 12 possible answers, or 12 possible outcomes for when you roll a dice and flip a coin at the same time. So you have the heads being a head and a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and a tail and a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So in total you have 12 outcomes. Now they'll ask you the probability of getting a 4. So you'll notice here that there's only 2 options where you can get a 4. You can either get a 4 with a head and a 4 with a tail. So there's 2 options out of the 12 options for getting a 4. So the probability of getting a 4 is then 2 out of 12, which is then 1 out of 6. The probability of getting a tail, so you'll notice here at the bottom you have a tail and a 1, a tail and a 2, tail 3, tail 4, tail 5, tail 6. So there's 6 options where you can get a tail, 6 out of the 12, which is then a half. Now, the last question that we're going to look at is, in a maze, you have to choose left or right. No matter which path you go down, there will be 3 opportunities to choose left or right. Now, those of you that don't know what a maze looks like, this is a maze. And when you walk into the maze, you get a point where you have to choose to go left or to go right. And you'll notice that there's a lot of possible answers or possible outcomes of how you turn. That makes sense. So what we're going to do is you have to draw a tree diagram and answer the questions that follow. So first let's focus on the tree diagram. So if you walk into the maze, your first option, here's your maze. So you walk into the maze, your first turn you can either go left or right. If you turn left, then your next option or your next choice would be to turn left or right again. If you turn right at the first choice, you also have the option to turn left or right again. So there was your first choice where you turned left or right, and your second choice to turn left or right. Now remember, this represents all of the possible turns that you can make. Then your third choice is if you turn left and turn left again, then your third choice would be you can, from those 2 turns, you can turn left or right. If you turn left first, then right, then you can turn left and right, and so on and so forth. Okay. Now, the possible outcomes that you can get is that you can have all 3 left turns. So you turned left 3 times. You have a left, and a right, a left, right, left, a left, right, 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 left, left, right, left, right, 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 left, and then all 3 turns were to the right. So in total, you have 8 possible outcomes when you go into this maze. Now they ask you, write down the possibility that you will, write down the probability that you will choose all right turns. So all right turns, you'll notice that there's only 1 chance where you would turn right the whole time. So out of that, the probability of turning right all 3 times would be 1 out of the 8. Then the next question is 1 left turn and 2 right turns. So 1 left, 2 right. So if you look at your possible outcomes, we're going for 1 left, 2 right. So 1 left, there's 1 left, 2 right. I have a left and then 2 right, and a left and 2 right. So you'll see that there's 3 possibilities or 3 possible outcomes there out of the 8 to turn left once and right 2 times. They didn't say in any specific order, so we're going for 3 out of 8. Next one is at least 1 left turn. So at least 1 left turn. So if you look at this, at least 1 left, so you can go left once, you can go left twice, left 3 times. There must be at least a left. So I have these lefts in that option. Lefts, lefts, there's also lefts, 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 lefts. So you have 7 left or 7 possibilities to pick from out of the 8. So it's 7 out of 8. Then the last one is no left turn. So if you're not turning left at all, you're only turning right. So that would mean that there's only 1 option out of the 8 where you will only turn right. Thank you, guys.